Hi, welcome back to another episode of Life with Marisol. I'm so happy you're here. I kind of want to reintroduce myself and kind of talk about what I think that this podcast is about. Don't even look at everything behind me. We are in the process of reorganizing our entire apartment. We got a new puppy. I kind of mentioned that before, but we got a mini Aussie puppy at 7 weeks old, and now he is at 16 weeks. He's pretty much fully vaccinated. We're just waiting for that period of his, like, 2 weeks post his last shots. That being said, our cat has not been liking him and has been pissing on our couch. So it's just kind of been a nightmare all around. So this podcast is kind of for the girls. It's kind of from my perspective of me talking out loud about what's going on. Instead of it just being a vlog, it's kind of me reflecting on past mistakes that I have been currently going through, trying to resolve, trying to be hopeful for the future because it's so difficult. It's so hard trying to make sure that you are following a routine, making sure that you are mentally stimulated, trying to not have a nervous system malfunction, not have your nervous system completely collapse, because that did happen to me last year. And I have really been trying to get better about how I choose to go about life now. It was a weird wake up call, is what happened. So that's kind of why I started this. And right now we're in the middle of our Becoming Her series because I realized one day I was kind of confused on what it meant to be sexy, what I thought it meant to be sexy. Because naturally, I think that what you view as this persona of what is sexy and you don't really live up to that can be really detrimental to your own mental health and incredibly detrimental to your own self-esteem. And it was for me. I was picturing a woman who was fuller than I am, right? Who has massive tits, who has a more petite nose, who who has tattoos, and it's just like this really cool girl. And it was just so different than what I'm actually being. So I wanted to create this series of what I think it means to be sexy. And I made an episode of introducing that concept. But this series is specifically targeting each week as ways you can implement new routines into your life to be sexy. Does that make sense? I want us to kind of go into more deeper topics about what I think it means to be sexy. And this week we're going to talk about being a good friend. I know, bear with me, but I bring up being a good friend because having community is super important to our overall mental health. Having community is super important in order to help us grow to be better versions of ourselves. People that can hold us accountable, people who care for us and who's there for you, good and bad. And that's kind of what I wanted to go into. I think being a good friend is one of the sexiest qualities that you can have. If you're somebody who is dependable, if you're somebody who has good people around you, that implies you're a good person. It shows that you are willing to put in your time to build those quality relationships. And I've already spoke about how important I think it is to form quality female friendships. But I kind of just introduced that topic. So we all have a memory of someone whom we let get close to us and we ended up regretting it. But how often do you really reflect about your own qualities as a friend? And I know that I've been in a transition point for most of the the better half of the year. Maybe I'm just always adapting. I'm always trying to improve my career, my finances, my education, but I've been having new priorities as well. One of my new priorities is kind of showing up for the people around me in the way that I say I'm going to show up. So today's episode will be discussing how to show up for struggling friends, thoughtful gestures that can go a long way, and some budget friendly ways to connect. So I have kind of always struggled with making friends. I usually have about 1 to 2 close friends at a time, but lately I've been really prioritizing branching out. And I made an episode about how we should treat making friends like dating. We should treat making friends like dating. And you should check that out if you haven't. But I want to add on to that. What happens after the vetting period and you have now started to build the friendship? Eventually, there will be a point where you will have to be a supportive friend. Duh. You can't just make the friendships and hope that they last. You can't just, they're not a piece of pasta you stick to the wall and hope that it sticks. Eventually, there will be a point where you're the supportive friend, and that's what women friendships are. Now, we have all had different levels of support that we can actually execute. And for me, I had to realize what are my strong suits in being a friend. And I'm not the friend that you can really go cry to. Not that I don't care, but it kind of makes me feel physically uncomfortable when someone is crying next to me because I know that they need a hug, but I didn't really grow up with physical affection like that. So I know they need a hug, but I don't feel comfortable giving the hug. It's really awkward and uncomfortable for the both of us. And I know that, but that doesn't mean that I don't care. I really couldn't provide that kind of support, and I'm really good at providing logical solutions to a problem. I'm really good at being on your side when it comes to someone who wronged you and you need to vent and just letting you vent. I absolutely support you letting me know if you need to vent or you need solutions, and I can be that friend for you. But since it would be difficult for me to initiate a hug to someone who needs it, that could be something that I need to work on, or it's something that I need to accept that I'm lagging. I'm not sure what part to change, but what I do know is that my strengths go from there. So to say someone is in my life that I care about deeply is going through a rough period, I have my own busy schedule. Do I ignore them because I didn't fit their dilemma in my calendar? Or do I just adjust what I need to in order to make their life a little bit better? I'm sure you can see the answer for that. Of course, I'm going to try to adjust to be there for the friend. Emergencies happen, meltdowns happen. I had one yesterday and I reached out to my friend because, of course, I can vent to my husband, but I really need to talk to this friend. She's amazing, and I really let her know, hey, I'm kind of struggling. Like, can we get together and like have a movie night? Can we just kind of like initiating a quality time get together? She, of course, she was all for it. She's like, what's going on? And I kind of told her like, hey, like I'm kind of struggling with some stuff, and it feels heavy, and I just want to have like just want to hang out with my friend. So we can plan for that. You can't drop everything for everyone all the time. That is not sustainable, nor should that friend be expecting you to do that. That's kind of a disrespectful friend, I would say. While we can't control when our friends have meltdowns, we can control how we react to them. Knowing your own strengths can greatly impact your relationships. Now, be careful about the friends in your life who tend to be in the constant crisis mode. You have to make sure that you aren't bending over backwards for them, where it's becoming detrimental to your own priorities. Offering support can be helpful, but learn to notice the signs when that person may need more help than you are qualified for. Remember, being a friend is one thing, but being a friend's caregiver or life coach is another. I grew up in a family where there were enough of us in quantity that made for constant disasters to occur. Growing up with 5 sisters, there were meltdowns. There were times when someone needed a ride home from somewhere 30 minutes away. They didn't mention it until they needed the ride. I mean, don't forget, there needs to be someone watching the youngest sibling too for their own safety. And I think growing up in this kind of environment where we all tried to help each other out eventually burned me out to being a supportive. There's a sister that I don't speak with because she continued to make bad choices, wanted all of us to bail her out, and then she repeated. There was no reflection, there was no respect for our time. It was a constant cycle that was rather annoying. And she knew that she could take us for granted because we loved her and we wanted to be able to give her support and help her in her need. But then it just became the fact that she knew that we would. And then that just kind of shifted how I felt about helping people. It really stuck with me where I want to help people who want to be helped because I was easily manipulated to offer support to someone who wanted to use me. And I don't want to think of friendships in this manner. The older that you get, the more that past friendships have impacted you, the more you realize your shortcomings, where you weren't being a good friend to somebody, or somebody else wasn't being a very good friend to you, and that sticks with you. And it's hard lessons learned, but being able to reflect back and know, okay, I don't want that to happen again, is a really big decision. I think that that's some real progress. That's what I go through. It's what I'm currently going through. I'm trying to make new friends in Oklahoma, where it has been such a culture shock, honestly, and it's made it a bit difficult for me to adjust because I am from California and these people are not Californian people, but that doesn't mean that there's not good people here. I just have to work harder to find them. So going forward, this episode is for the people who are in a place to grow, who want to be able to be in an environment that is positive, not trying to find people who are in a place of struggle. Offering resources and guidance is one thing, but I am talking about showing support to your friend who had a baby, or the perspective of you who had a baby, not to forget your friends who are single and childless. I don't believe that you should end a friendship because of these life choices. Do I admit that these life choices have a big impact? Yes, I got a puppy. That has impacted my social life for sure. Like now he's at the point where he could be in a crate for 4 to 5 hours. Before we were on a 2 hour potty break. It was a struggle, but I can still jump back now and try to be social. I know that, okay, I took that time for myself. We took that time in this household to adjust based off of making a big life decision. And now I can go back to the friends that I was making, to those friendships that I was trying to build. I just think that we're really quick to write people off and let life meltdowns, let life decisions really impact our friendships. And it's really unfortunate. That's really common. I mean, I've done it. Going through life changes is unavoidable. And I get that. But it's also our responsibility to adapt for the people who we want in our lives. And I wanted to share some of the ideas to offer your time and energy that won't feel like they're draining you. So lately I joined a girl walking group chat and it now has 400 women in there looking for community to add to their calendar. And I love that. Except no one is actually participating. There will be a few mentions of a random walk, but the admins are mainly promoting their own businesses, which is really annoying. Like I thought about even taking it over because why are you just promoting your business? This was a walking group. Anyways, I didn't join a Facebook page to see people start promoting their hair salon prices for a reason. I joined a walking group. You know what I mean? So I was venting with two girls that I met from there, from that group, about how I don't mind messaging the admins and taking over a certain part of the city, which was very adventurous of me to do when I barely have time as it is. But I've been making my schedule for school. I am trying to prioritize fitness more, trying to get back and get a job, trying to get a job again. It sucks. I thought, why not start a weekly walking group that's down the street from me? And I'm still debating it. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. There is a lot on my plate because like which days, which time of the day, it's starting to get hot, yada yada yada. And then I thought about how cool it would be to invite some of the girls over to my place and make breakfast before the walks. Maybe rotating who hosts that day so that way someone doesn't feel obligated or overwhelmed to host. Or maybe I just keep it here. We did get a new couch that could fit more people for the clean. And that's just how my mind works. My mind just started going to making this little fantasy come to life. And currently we're in a 2-bedroom apartment. And I thought, man, if only we were renting a house. Maybe they could bring their dogs over to our future yard and they can socialize with our puppy while we turn the breakfast into a potluck. Someone brings an item, we all get to enjoy, and then we go for the walk. The last thing I need is to exercise and not have any food in my system. Made that mistake, not doing that again. All of these thoughts started a few days ago. I realized, I had to reflect, and I was like, am I being a little crazy for trying to set this huge event up? Probably. I'm not even in a house, and I'm thinking about where to rent to be able to host at least 10 girls and 4 dogs. But that's because I want to actually put the effort into forming a community around me instead of just saying it. And oftentimes, I feel like we get stuck in the planning phase, or we worry about how much things cost, which is really valid. Especially right now, the economy is a little shaky. I think we'll hear that for the rest of our lives. I swear I've been hearing about the economy since I was like 8 years old, but it is a little rough right now. I know that it's not sustainable for me to go to a cafe 5 times a week. There's a girl that I know that she works from home, and instead of feeling super isolated, she goes to a cafe to work, which is great, but I can't really do that all the time, especially with my own schedule. So there's different dynamics that come into making friendships, and money, although we try to ignore it, is a big part of it. I think that money is a very valid problem in friendships. And I think that that's why I always think about budget-friendly ways to really connect with people. I have honestly mentioned before, but I don't enjoy casually drinking anymore. I don't vape. I don't smoke anything. And that's just where I'm at right now in my life. Smoking and drinking usually can be the only form of connection that people have with each other. And I'm totally over that. I don't want to just block out by hanging out with you. I want to have a good time with you and remember it and not feel shitty the next day. That's why I thought instead of a dinner party, I thought of hosting a breakfast and starting the day with that kind of contagious girl energy. I thought of being consistent with asking other girls if they would want to join me for a walk, because everybody needs a walk. Everybody needs just 10,000 steps a day, just basic exercise. It's a little difficult to do, especially when you kind of don't want to do it alone, which is really valid. I know that I can go walk by myself, but for some reason, walking and talking with a friend makes me feel like I could walk farther and have more energy to do it. And I wish I had a house, because then I would start doing garden parties. Because times are kind of getting tough out there, I really wish we had a house, because we've already started a garden, but I don't know anybody with a house, or else I would start an actual garden. We have a balcony that we start our garden on. I'm talking about an actual backyard. So say I was renting a house and I want to start a garden, that would be a great way to invite your kids over and we all get to play in the dirt, teaching them skills. We get to catch up about what's going on in our lives without anticipating what the bill is going to be for the $15 cocktail that you just ordered. Instead, I wanted to create a safe environment for people to gather. Maybe I'm being too much of a homebody. I mean, you can still fly kites with friends. I genuinely believe you are never too old to do that. And I think I've brought that up multiple times because I really want to fly kites soon. I think about like this idea of having a house and you can bring your kids over, you can bring your dog, you can bring your partner. And like that's what I picture community. I feel like in the past, or at least my experience in this state, it's mainly just going out to a restaurant. You can go to a concert, but can we go to a concert every single day? You know, are we going to concerts every single week? No. So like those are outliers. I'm talking about what's something that you can consistently do to help you form a community. And when you put in effort for things that you want to do, then I believe that can make you a better friend. And if you think in this term, in this way of building friendships, you'll know who's actually interested in being your friend or not. Because like I said, it's super easy to go grab a drink with somebody. Absolutely. But we're talking about being a good friend. We're talking about putting yourself into other people's lives that you're trying to welcome, you're trying to connect. You're trying to be a good friend. You're trying to be a good person. We're trying to build all these aspects of us being sexier, of us being more confident, being more comfortable. And that's knowing when to be in an environment or not. That's knowing when to continue speaking to people who have entered your life. Because not everybody who enters your life should be your best friend. That's where that vetting process comes in. And I think that's where the hard part really comes in. Maybe even the biggest problem. And I don't think I don't think it's scary making new friends. I personally find it incredibly easy to start a conversation with someone. It's kind of my like toxic trait. I'm really good at talking all the time. Hence, my problem is staying consistent. And I think that that's a problem that a lot of us have. A problem of learning how to be vulnerable. Because what if we want to be friends with someone and they start blowing you off? That's hurtful and it can feel really lonely. And that's why it's important to remember for you to make friends like you're dating. You need to expose yourself with more people in order to filter out the duds. Not every single woman is going to have your expectations, your imagination, your loyalty. Knowing when to have your own self-respect and walk away from situations is a crucial skill to learn. Sometimes only learn the hard way. But when you continue to put yourself out there, it will only get better. It will get easier. Having female friendships is a cornerstone of having a fulfilling life. So how do we learn the skills to be a good friend? By finding people who you can trust to tell you if you did something they didn't like. To change your behavior within reason. It's also important to be in public with people who you're trying to build friendships with, because you can tell a lot about how someone holds themselves in public, but who they really are. Are they harassing the server? Are they being that person that is being super needy at a restaurant? Have you worked at a restaurant before? You know that, hey, we should probably respect the people who are making our food, who are serving us our food. You don't mess with people who touch your food. That's just a rule. And if I'm with somebody who's doing that, who's harassing the server, I'm going to feel really uncomfortable. I'm going to get really turned off and be like, look, that's not cool. I'm not scared to call somebody out, especially if I'm trying to be friends with you. Hey, why are you getting so upset? Let's figure out this like displaced anger, okay? Are you really mad at the server about your food? Is there something else going on that you want to talk about? Like there's ways to de-escalate, but just like if you're on a date with somebody and they're being rude to customer service person wherever you're at, you're gonna remember that. You're gonna think, this person has a short temper. I don't really like that. Oh, this person is very vulgar and aggressive. I don't like that. Same thing with friends. I mean, we like to act about how like men and women are so different. Like women could still be shitty people too. I just think that that's not cool behavior, and it shows a lot about your personality, your mindset. Reflect on your own actions if it made someone feel uncomfortable and why. That's also important. That plays into having accountability. It sucks being told that you did something wrong, especially by a friend, by like anyone. I don't think anybody really likes being told they did something wrong. How you react is important. For instance, I have learned that I used to be incredibly abrasive with my tone, with my form of communication. Not really a shocker if you knew me, but I also know that I am blunt and honest. Anyways, I'm willing to learn, but I also know that most of the time I have been around people who I wouldn't normally choose to be around, meaning coworkers. They can have a positive or negative influence on you, but I have learned to get thicker skin to see if I'm overreacting or am I being told to suppress my emotions. Because I don't know, taking back constructive criticism is such a skill, but it's also, who are you to kind of tell me what I'm doing wrong? And that's been something that I've learned to struggle with. But I had to accept that in order to be a better person, in order to be a better friend. It made me lose some friendships with having these standards for myself. I learned that not everyone wants to have someone like me in their lives. And instead of thinking about what I did wrong all the time, instead I'm going to go get new experiences. I'm going to try to do some activities. It's literally the only way to know if me or you are being too much, or if the people around us are not being enough for for us if they can't handle your personality. Because I think that people just haven't been able to handle my honesty, my bluntness. But the people who are in my lives to stay appreciate those qualities. They appreciate that if I have a problem, I'm immediately going to address it. I'm not going to yell, but I am going to be somebody that communicates a lot. And some people don't like to actually communicate. They just kind of want a problem. And I'm not that person. I'm not somebody who fights just to fight. That is so draining. I can't do that. I can't be around people like that. So I have problems with people like that. I'll talk about a way that I showed up for a friend in a way that I think that was building community. So I have a friend. She has 2 sons. I love her. She needed a last minute babysitter for something, and I had an opening in my schedule before work. I didn't ask her how much she would pay. She asked me if I could be around from a certain time, take care of her little one while she took her older one somewhere. And I said yes. Everything was fine when she came back. We caught up one-on-one for a little bit, and then I left because then I had work in the evening, so I had to go get ready for it. And that reminds me to share that we can't be lazy in our friendships. Because if this friend would try to ask me to take care of her children from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., it'd be a different conversation. Remember, not every situation is the same. I'm just sharing the story. The only consistent issue here is figuring out what kind of friend you want to be. What can you handle? And I know that I can't be the friend to try new restaurants all the time. Right now, I gave a heads up to everyone in my life. Hey, look, I'm going to go back to school full time July 1st. I have this next month where I have some freedom. Our puppy is almost fully vaccinated, so we can start going for walks out by like a local lake. And I know it's my responsibility to express and communicate what I can give. I'm not talking about emergencies. I get that. But I have a study schedule. So going out for drinks and forgetting my responsibilities for an entire day would have a lot of consequences that would make me have to make up the next couple days for. I would have to make up what I lost, and that's why I shared what weekends I would be available, or offered to work out together with friends, because I don't want to lose the friendships because I'm going through a transition. But I also have a responsibility to do what's best for myself. Because sometimes you kind of lose friends when you go through life transitions. And that happens because I think that people just stopped meeting each other halfway or giving 80-20 and vice versa. Like it's really easy to just kind of forget these friendships. And I don't want to do that. I have been guilty of doing that. I enjoy my own space. I like to be home sometimes. I need to go out. I need to open up and be more vulnerable with people. Sometimes I don't have the energy, or am I just being lazy? Like you need to reflect on what kind of friend you want to be. Do you want to be the lazy friend? Do you want to be the friend that only gets drinks? Do you want to be the all or nothing? You won't know until you go out there and keep trying. If you take anything away from this episode, it is that you can't be a good friend if you don't have the energy to build friendships. You have to know what your strengths and weaknesses are in order to know what you can offer to someone. Knowing what you can handle can really help dictate what kind of friend you can be consistently. And you can try to be something that you're not, but obviously that's not going to be sustainable. So you might as well make the path of creating friendships be as easy as we can make it. Okay, that's all for this week on another episode of Life with Marisol. This was part 4 of the Becoming Her series, and next week we'll be about halfway through. Thank you so much for listening, and I appreciate all of your support. New episode every Wednesdays, usually. Have a nice week, and I'll talk to you soon.